On March 7, 1965, 600 people began a walk across the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma, Alabama. They marched for the right to vote, a right denied to Black Americans for generations. Instead of dialogue, they met tear gas, whips, and clubs from state troopers. The violence of Bloody Sunday shocked the nation. Images of peaceful marchers being beaten exposed the brutal reality of voter suppression. In Dallas County, more than half the population was Black, but only 2% were registered to vote, blocked by literacy tests, poll taxes, and intimidation. The attack on the bridge was a desperate attempt to maintain white supremacy, but the nation could no longer look away. Public outrage forced President Lyndon B. Johnson to act. Days later, he addressed Congress, calling for a strong federal voting rights law, declaring, "And we shall overcome." The events in Selma transformed the political landscape. Within 5 months, the Voting Rights Act of 1965 was signed into law. This landmark legislation was a direct response to the courage of the marchers. The march proved that the fight for the ballot was a fight for the soul of America. The images from Selma became a catalyst for monumental change. The struggle for voting rights was no longer hidden. It was a national crisis. The marchers' sacrifice forced the country to confront its ideals versus its reality. The Voting Rights Act was not just a law, it was a promise to protect democracy. Selma showed that ordinary people could change the course of history. We the people originally meant only a privileged few. At America's founding, voting was reserved for white, property-owning men. Women, enslaved Black people, indigenous peoples, and poor white men were excluded. The founders feared mob rule and believed only property owners had the virtue to govern. This system reinforced a hierarchy, keeping power in the hands of wealthy white men. Universal suffrage was not a founding principle. It was a radical idea. The struggle for voting rights began at the nation's birth. Every expansion of the vote was hard-won, never freely given. The right to vote has always been contested, not guaranteed. The fight has been to expand "we the people" to truly mean everyone. America's story of voting is a story of exclusion and of relentless struggle to overcome it. After the Civil War, Reconstruction brought hope for a multiracial democracy. The 15th Amendment promised voting rights regardless of race. Black men voted and held office, transforming communities. But white supremacist violence, lynchings, intimidation, the KKK, quickly reversed these gains. Federal troops withdrew in 1877, ending Reconstruction and leaving Black Americans vulnerable. Jim Crow laws followed. Poll taxes, literacy tests, and grandfather clauses blocked Black voters. In Louisiana, Black voter registration dropped from over 130,000 to just 2,300 in a few years. These laws weren't just about politics, they were about power and control. Denying the vote meant Black communities couldn't challenge segregation or injustice. The illusion of progress vanished, replaced by a rigid system of oppression. For nearly a century, Black Americans were systematically silenced at the ballot box. The promise of the 15th Amendment was betrayed. The fight for voting rights was waged on many fronts. While Black men battled Jim Crow, women fought for suffrage. Leaders like Susan B. Anthony and Ida B. Wells challenged the idea that women were unfit for politics. The suffrage movement spanned 70 years, facing ridicule, arrest, and division over race. Black women like Wells and Mary Church Terrell fought for both racial and gender equality, often sidelined by white suffragists. The 19th Amendment, ratified in 1920, barred voting discrimination based on sex. Millions of women gained the vote, but Jim Crow still blocked Black women in the South. Legal victories didn't dismantle entrenched barriers. Progress was always partial, always resisted. The civil rights movement inherited these struggles, with activists like Fannie Lou Hamer fighting for true democracy. They knew laws alone weren't enough. Federal protection was essential. The expansion of the vote to one group never guaranteed it for all. The fight for voting rights demanded courage across generations. The Voting Rights Act of 1965 was a turning point. It banned literacy tests and gave the federal government power to block discriminatory voting laws. The heart of the law, pre-clearance, required states with histories of discrimination to get federal approval before changing voting rules. The impact was immediate. Black voter registration soared, and Black Americans were elected to office. The act shifted power and transformed communities. Congress renewed and expanded it repeatedly, recognizing its success. For nearly 50 years, the VRA protected American democracy. It was a promise, hard-won, but actively defended. In 2013, the Supreme Court's Shelby County versus Holder decision gutted the Voting Rights Act. By striking down the pre-clearance formula, the court removed federal oversight from states with histories of discrimination. The result was immediate. States rushed to pass restrictive voting laws. Texas and North Carolina enacted measures that targeted black voters with surgical precision. The proactive shield of the VRA was gone. Now, citizens had to fight discriminatory laws in court after the damage was done. The unfinished battle for voting rights entered a new, dangerous phase. Since Shelby, a new wave of voter suppression has emerged. Strict photo ID laws, polling place closures, and aggressive voter roll purges disproportionately affect minorities, the elderly, and the poor. These barriers are modern-day poll taxes, neutral on the surface, discriminatory in effect. In Texas, over 600,000 registered voters lacked the required ID. Nearly 1,700 polling places closed in former pre-clearance states between 2012 and 2018, mostly in Black and Latino communities. Long lines, confusing rules, and purged registrations make voting harder for millions. These tactics are calculated, not random. The goal to shape the electorate by making it harder for some Americans to vote. Voter suppression has a real, devastating human cost. Black, Latino, Asian American, Native American, young and low-income voters face the steepest barriers. Strict ID laws widen turnout gaps between white voters and voters of color. Native Americans using P.O. boxes or tribal IDs can be disenfranchised by address requirements. Students face residency rules and ID restrictions that deter participation. Closing polling places on campuses and cutting early voting hits young voters hardest. When groups are excluded, government ignores their needs. Schools, infrastructure, health, and safety suffer. Disenfranchisement erodes representative democracy. The fight for voting rights is a fight for power, justice, and equality. It's not abstract. It's about real lives and real futures. America's voting rights story is not a steady march forward. Every gain, the 15th Amendment, the 19th, the Voting Rights Act, has faced backlash. Voting rights are not self-enforcing. They require vigilance and action. Barriers to voting weaken democracy itself. A tilted system is unjust and unrepresentative. The fight for voting rights is a fight for the integrity of democracy. The path forward demands action. Restore the Voting Rights Act, set national voting standards, and expand access. Reject the myth of widespread voter fraud used to justify suppression. Support organizations fighting for voting rights. Most importantly, participate. Know your rights, check your registration, vote in every election, and encourage others. Volunteer as a poll worker and report injustice. Reflect on your own voting experience. What barriers have you faced? Protecting the right to vote is the essential work of our time. The future of American democracy depends on it.